Okay, everybody. So here we are to do another one of our webinars. We're going to look at three races. One that was run about 8 or 9 days ago in Paris, the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, which we'll start with. And then we'll look at a couple of Argentinian races and look at some sort of comparisons and discuss how we came up with our figures in the thing. And I think, Ricardo, you've got the figures. Do you want to put them up for the first race, the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so everybody can see the result. There were 17 runners in the race, but I thought it was only worthwhile looking at the first 10 who have made an impact on the race. You can see the name of the horse, the country it's trained in, the age of the horse, the weight it carried, because 3-year-olds will be carrying a slightly lesser weight than the older horses. Fillies will be getting a fillies allowance, so you'll see all the weights there. The very important column is the pre-race rating. The last 3 performance figures. The one on the left of those last 3 performance figures is the most recent. So you will see that Dariz, the winner, he performed to 117 last time, and his rating is 117. You'll see the distances that the horses were beaten. And then the 3 of us, we've all put a figure on the system. I had the winner 127, so did Nahuel. Ricardo, you were a little bit lower. And do you want me to start off with how I came up with my figures?
Yep, great.
Okay, right. Well, if you look at the third horse, Sosi, right, you will see that in her last 3 performances, she's got 119, 116, and 119. Her rating is 120 from a race 3 or 4 or 5 runs ago. But she's been performing to 119 on a regular basis. So it seemed to me, and it seemed to all of us, which was good news, that we all believed that the best guide as to the level of the race was Sosi. So we therefore give Sosi his 119, and we work from there. I suppose the only difference is the figure for Mini Hawk. And Ricardo, you were 122 for Mini Hawk, and Nahuel and I were 123. Tell me where your 122 came from.
Well, Phil, in fact, it seemed to be, well, I was there in France. First of all, Sosi was outstanding in the parade ring before the race, so I was sure that he would race his race. That's why then I use his figure to build the ratings. But it seemed to be that the difference between Mini Hawk and Sosi wasn't 5.5. Look at me, maybe 4.5 or 5 lengths. And then I had, maybe I'm wrong, but it was at the time right after the race. I mean, we had a meeting on Monday, right after the day after the arc. And at that time, I thought the margin was not that 5.5. Then as I built through Sosi, I had a slightly difference between Mini Hawk and Sosi, which prevents me to reach 127 for Darius. And in the other hand, seeing the whole scenario of the world rankings, the actual top horse is Ombudsman, 128, is going to run next Saturday in the Champions. And we have some good horses at 127. And I thought 126 would be great, considering those 2-3-year-olds improving. And that's why. But then maybe I'm wrong, because everybody on the system, they have the difference 4 pounds between Mini Hawk and Sosi. and that's it. That was my building process at that time.
That's interesting. I'll come to you, Nahuel, in a second. I watched the video of the race over and over again, and obviously on our system, somebody had said that they thought the distance was really only 4.5. I've watched it again a couple of times today, and I'm pretty happy that the distance is 5 lengths between Mini Hawk and Sosi, having watched it through on a number of occasions. So I was happy, taking the fact that she's a filly and she gets a filly's allowance. I was happy to call the difference between Mini Hawk and Sosi 4 rather than your 3, because I thought that the 5 lengths was okay. You thought that the 4.5 was okay. It's very the one thing we can be absolutely 100% in agreement of. It wasn't 5.5 lengths.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So and this is an interesting thing that happens for handicappers all over the world. We very much rely on the judges and the clerks of the scales to be absolutely 100% accurate with the weights and absolutely 100% accurate with the distances, because you can see that it affects our decisions here, because both Nahuel and I have got 123 for Mini Hawk, working on the distance being 5 lengths, and Ricardo has only got 122 because he was working on the distance of being 4.5 lengths. So you can see that this is, really important when you're dealing with absolute champion horses. This is absolutely essential. So luckily, in this case, it brings you up to 126, Ricardo, and me to 127, and Nahuel to 127. Any other horses, Nahuel, that you looked at that gave you an interest in the race?
Well,
Yeah.
Arrow Eagle was the problem horse, the 6th horse. He's never achieved a rating like this one. So improving, being a 6th place is not like common. As a 4-year-old, not a 3-year-old in an improving position. Of course, a 4-year-old is still improving, but that was the problem horse. But he was running. I think last he entered the final straight, the last position, and he was the one really running on in the end. And maybe because of the track bias on the weekend, we didn't have too many horses coming from way behind, so all the riders were trying to be like packed in front. So the race was not easy, and for this guy it was an easy race. I mean, he was like no pressure, running behind all the others. So I admit it would be possible to achieve this 117, and because of this horse going like 2 pounds below the other ones, maybe it's not fair. That was like the problem in this race. But in Javelotto is a very good horse, the 4th one, but notably he prefers good to firm or firm. The race was on soft conditions, raining on the day exactly when start the race. Should be a problem, but no, he was like 1 pound below his best performance, his peak. So it's another thing that make me believe in these ratings. And Lefar, the other French horse, he was stunning at the parade ring again, and probably he raced to his peak 16, another proof of the level of the race.
Absolutely. Lefard, I wouldn't have, he's finished 8th. I wouldn't want him to be performing any more than what he's done in the past. I'm always suspicious of a horse that finishes 8th in a race and it suddenly goes up a significant amount. I'm not comfortable with that. But the fact is here, he's replicated the 116, which he did 2 runs ago. Arrow Eagle, as you say, Ricardo is the interesting horse in the race because his rating is 110 in France, and that's, it's quite a big jump up to go to 117. But if you look at his past performances, 2 runs ago, I had him performing to 115. Other people around the world didn't have him quite that high, but I felt that that was a good performance when he ran to the 115 a couple of runs ago. That was in the Prix de Chantilly at Chantilly in June. Um, and when I did that at the time, and I was completely different from everyone else, I thought, well, I must be wrong because I'm so different from everyone else. But I kept the figure, and now when he's performed to 117, I'm sort of reassured that I wasn't too far wrong when I had him on 115. And this is what happens with handicappers all over the world. You make a decision, and you're always looking to see if the subsequent events prove you right or prove you wrong. Well, it's taken a while for Arrow Eagle to prove me right, but he's sort of done it in the end in a big race. Nahuel, what was your thinking on this race?
Well, you have said a lot about it. I think that I totally agree with you, Phil. I think that Lefar has run in his level. The same to Soucy. Soucy has won 19 in 2 of 3 last races. And so I think that if Soucy was running in her level, so it was in his level, sorry, it was like easy to me to think that the race is 127.
Yep. I'm fully in agreement with you. Okay, the two things that worried me a little bit the following day, because I know Ricardo, the following day you guys were in a conference, and I was just in my hotel room, playing around with some figures and so on. And the two figures that sort of slightly concerned me at first were the first and the second, Dariz and Mini Hawk. They're 5 lengths clear. It's very, very unusual in a race as competitive as the Arc to have a 5 length difference between the second and the third. So then I started to think, well, was it the soft ground that caused that, or is this a true level of these horses' ability? Well, the one thing I think about these two horses that made me happier with my figures of 127 and 123 is that they're young horses. And the fact that they're only 3, if these were 5 or 6 years old, I'm not sure I believe this level, because why has it taken them so long to do this? And I was also worried about, did the ground stop some of the other horses from performing to their level? Well, it may have done for some, but there were quite a few horses in the race who have got form on soft ground. So I didn't think it was purely the soft ground. So the more I came back to it, I've got these two improving 3-year-olds. If you look at Darez's last 3 performances, 112, 106, and 117 last time. So he's going in the right direction. Mini Hawk 117, 114, 118. She's going in the right direction.
Yeah, and winning.
So I'm winning. I'm winning. Absolutely. So the great thing about these two horses is that they're serial winners. Okay. Now I did have one little doubt about the race. Okay. And I think we may have discussed this at the time, right? The first, second, and third were drawn 1, 2, and 3. I don't think they were actually in that order. I don't think Daraz was 1, Minihawk was 2, and Sosi was 3. But the 3 of them were drawn either 2, 3, 1 or 1, 3, 2 or 3, 2, 1. And I just slightly wonder whether the low drawn horses had an advantage in the race. So that was my biggest doubt about the level. But giving Darez 127, it puts Darez as the sort of second best horse in the world so far this year, behind Ombudsman. And when you beat a champion filly, Mini Hawk, and the rest of the boys are 5 lengths behind, that's a pretty convincing performance for me.
Yeah. I've tried to make some back handicapping with Mini Hawk, but I think the levels were okay of those races because she kept winning. So she
Yep.
won the Chester Oaks, then she won the Epsom Oaks, then she won the Irish Oaks in the Curragh, and then finally she won the Yorkshire Oaks. So if the competition were like stronger, probably she would be pushed to achieve a better rating. But with back handicapping, considering the beaten horses, I think the levels were okay, and the competition pushed her to this level now.
Yeah,
And
I think you've absolutely summed it up perfectly there, Ricardo. You know, I was the same with Mini Hawk. I've all season I've felt that she's been given a level 117, 118, and so on, but she's been winning her races comfortably, but she's only been running against the girls.
Yeah.
You know, and the big test for the top fillies is when they come and run up against the boys. And look, and she's beaten ahead by you know a horse that's 127. So for me, you know, Mini Hawk has always had the potential to be this level, and the Arc was the race that brought it out in her.
Exactly. Nahuel?
no, yes, I wanted to tell the same as Phil that Benny Hawks it was his best performance against the boys, and I think that she deserves some credit because of it, you know, and also from Darius, I watched his previous race in the Prince de Rent. He went back to Longchamp, I think. And probably if we take a look at this race, he could have won this race, I think. He was defeated by Croix du Nord, that it's a really good Japanese horse. And I think that he made he made like a champ, a big champ there. So probably if Croix du Nord was one of the favorites also to win the up, I think that there is also could be a potential winner, you know. So I think I'm really happy with the figures that were assigned to them.
Yeah. It's no surprise as well, you know, where if you think of the Darius is a horse bred by the Aga Khan studs. You know, historically, those horses have got better the further they've gone and have got better the longer they're racing. You know, they tend to be later maturing horses who love mile and a half races as opposed to mile or mile and a quarter races. So for him to show his best form in this race, in the second half of his 3-year-old career, I thought was you know, everything added up quite neatly for me. You know, in handicapping, as we all know, it doesn't work out quite as neatly as this all the time. And we're going to see in a minute a couple of races where it doesn't work out quite so neatly. But I think by and large, you know, most of the international handicappers, we were pretty much in agreement with we would have won a maximum of one different right the way across the world. So it was by and large, I think, a fairly straightforward race to assess.
Okay, so I think we've done with the arc, Phil.
Absolutely. Now let's try the couple of races which were a little bit more difficult.
Yes.
I will share the Jockey Club,
Okay.
and Nahuel maybe wants
Yeah,
to
you take it away, Newell. I mean, good luck on this one, Newell. This was a very, very difficult race.
I will need it. No, it's okay.
Okay, here it is. Real Rim. First of
Real
all,
win.
Jockey Club is the second leg of the Triple Crown in San
In
Isidro,
Argentina.
in Argentina. Yes.
Yes. Yes, it's the
2,000
second leg.
meters on turf, only for 3-year-olds. It was a firm turf, and it's all yours, Nahuel.
Okay, and also I would like to add a little bit of context of the race that it's the most historical race in Argentina. So, well, so second leg of the Triple Crown, And when we have Real Rim winning this race, I think that he won in a comfortable way. And it was difficult to get to the figures. It was like a quiz, the race, because there was not a clear guide to build ratings here. So
Okay.
what I did in this race, I started to investigate, look for last editions of the Jockey Club, and as you can see in this screen, you can see that first of all, Jockey Club has provided us winners of the Carlos Pellegrini as and champions as High Happy and Village King. And well, what I first saw is that the lowest winner, the lowest rating for the winner since 2012 was 113. And one of the horses that won that race was Imagen de Roma in year 21-8. And I think that that horse was a miler horse that decided to take the lead at the first part of the race, and the pace of the race was really slow, you know. So I think that he ran a mile. He did not run 2,000 meters there, and he managed to succeed and won the race. So I think that was a 1-1-3 and was okay for him. So I think that's one of the lowest rating for that horse and for the race. And then, well, I look at the last five editions of the Shogai Club, and see that the first four horses in the race, and I noticed that the second horse was never in the last five editions less than 110. So obviously not 115. That was the rating of the musical. That well, was a difficult finish there. But I think that if I take the 110, the 110, or the 111, it I would be happy with that figures for the race. But then I noticed that the best horse in the third position was 109. So I decided to use 110 for the second one, 109 for the third, and I was happy when with the 114 for Real Rim in that race. What this is like the explanation why I built this race. And I also see that I think that was the Ricardo, if you can share, thank you. Lago Nahuel Huapi was running in his level because he was 98. Was the only guy that
Sure.
maybe I can use. I was able to use in the race, and the problem was that the great racing and forcing maybe that were the favorites one for the races were underperformed there. So well, that's the explanation that why I assigned Real Rim 114. I think he was not uh, the the best horse for the last editions, but he was not a bad horse, and I think that he deserves the 114 for the race.
Okay. Just a couple of things I just want to say. First of all, everybody will see that this race is for 3-year-olds only, whereas with the Arc, we had a mixture of 3-year-olds and older horses. The Arc is a much easier race to work out because you've got older horses there that have got established form. But here you've got all these horses who are young, hopefully improving horses, and you don't know at what level they're all improving. And the other thing to remember, which is actually really, really important, is that these horses they're 3-year-olds, but they're actually 6 months younger than European horses
Yes,
at this point. Because obviously
definitely.
South America is the southern hemisphere region, and France is a northern hemisphere region, and our 3-year-olds become 3 on the 1st of January, and the southern hemisphere horses become 3 6 months later. So it's no surprise to see these levels a little bit lower than we had for the Arc de Triomphe, because they're younger, less developed horses. Okay, I found this race hugely difficult, and I'm quite different from you, Nahuel. I'm quite different from Ricardo, but I have to say you may well be right. I'm not confident about what I've got here, because I found it a really difficult race to assess. However, I'll try and give you my reasons as to why I'm there. Okay, so Real Rim is being pretty consistent apart from one moderate run. But his last 4 runs, he's been 108, he's been 80, he's been 101, he's been 108. That's been his level. He's been a 108, and he's run quite a number of times compared with some of the horses in this race. Right, Senior Sandro, right? This is the first time he's run in a Group 1 race, right? Or even a Group 2 or a Group 3. Phantom has run in one Group 1, Group 2, Group 3 race, and he ran badly. Jazzy Frank is a pretty solid 102, and it seems to be going the right direction. So I have no problem with Jazzy Frank performing a little bit better in this race, because he's already got a good performance in there. So no problem with him being higher than 102 in the race. I think we all agree about Ardendo, right? He's 112, but we've all got him. We don't know why, but he's underperformed in this race. And then we got Speed Test. It's his first performance in a pattern race as well. And then we have the 7th horse, Largo Nahuel Huapi, right? Now, he's an interesting one, and I can see why you've used his 98 as a base as to how you build your race, right? It's just that when he last ran in his previous race, I had him performing to 94. So I'm building up from a base of 94. You're building up from a base of 98. We're going to end up with a different figure. And as I say, I'm not confident, because the race is full of immature, hopefully improving horses, as well as a couple of horses who we all agree, for whatever reason, disappointing that Ardendo didn't perform on the day. Him performing would have made us a lot more confident about the level of the race. So I'm a little bit lower. But the great thing with 3-year-olds is, at this stage of the year, it doesn't really matter, because they're all going to run again, and we're going to find out to see what happens when they run next time. I'm looking forward to Real Rim running next time. Let's see, he runs to 112, 113. I'm looking forward to Senior Sandro. I've never seen him before. I'm hoping he's going to perform to 108, 109, and so on. Same with Phantom. I hope he's going to be producing performs in 100. Because the one thing that handicappers can do is we can change our minds, right? And we call it back handicapping. And so what I intend to do with this race is constantly looking at the figures that you guys have got for races in South America, and particularly in Argentina. And when these horses run next time, if they run well and perform better than the figures that I've got, I will make a decision, and I'll raise the level of this race, maybe for the winner to 112, maybe the winner for 114. Let's see how they perform. But it is interesting. No surprise that we've all got a different figure, because these are young, immature, hopefully improving horses. It's just a question that I can't be sure yet that they've improved as much as you think, and you think that and these horses way better than I do, right? So I'm looked at my figures and I thought, oh, I'm a little bit wary of that, but I'm open to improvement. Let's see what happens when these guys run again. Ricardo, what was your thinking?
Yeah, it's a typical race in the waiting. It's you build your figures. I build my figures, but waiting for the next race of everyone, because there's no clue. I don't think the 7 horse would be like a guide in this race.
Is that because he's beaten too far, Ricardo?
Exactly. exactly.
He's beaten nearly 10 lengths, hasn't he? So.
Exactly. So it's hard to imagine that that horse would guide everyone to somewhere. I don't think so. But I think the great racing was the I don't know if he was the favorite, but he had as I remember, he won the Gran Criterium, I think, in a heavy going.
The Grand Racing, yes.
Yes, easily,
Yes.
and he looks like or looked like the best 3-year-old
Yes.
in Argentina, and he failed. We don't know if it was the firm going in comparison with the very soft going when he won the Gran Criterium as a 2-year-old. So and then I had the great racing 112 at that time, and I had Ardiendo same level, more or less. Then I decided to build in the waiting the same level of the great racing and Ardiendo to check in the future what is Senhor Sandro, Phantom, Real Rim, what they going to do in the future, like Jess Frankie also. So there's no clue. So I decided to build it thinking about the level of the 3-year-olds nowadays. Unfortunately, it's a generation that is doing like this. The horses, there's no horse going like at least confirming some races, and it's a rating in the waiting. I used to say.
I would like to add some information about the race. The time was a very good time. It was the third time in the last 10 editions, I think. And the other thing that was that Real Ring, when he was a 2-year-old, was defeated by Drive Shoy, and Drive Shoy was second in the Polla de Potrillos. And I think that we have Drive Shoy running in 114. So I think that at least Real Rim deserves the same level as him. And another thing to say is that Senor Sandro is a 3-year-old that he has not previous stakes races, but he won 2 out of 3. So he just lost in his debut and then won 2 races consecutively. So I think that, that's more information that you have and that I have and use to build the real rim rating.
Mm-hmm. The horse I'd like to ask you guys about is Ardiendo. Okay.
Yes.
Because obviously he was a really good 2-year-old. He won the Grand Criterium when he was 2, which is where he gets his 112 from. Since then, he ran well in the Dos Mil Guineas at the start of this season. And then his last run before this one was a bit disappointing, over 1,800 meters, and now he's gone 2,000 meters. He's been disappointing again. So is the general view about Ardiendo, is he either not as good as he was as a 2-year-old, or is he not as good as he was because of the distance of the race?
It could be a possibility. And I think that the opposite happened with Real Rim. Real Rim was like moving up in the distance, and probably he's improving with more distance. So I think that it could be a possibility, Phil.
So what you're saying is Real Rim is an improver and he appreciated the distance, whereas Ardiendo is maybe not as good as he was as a 2-year-old and didn't enjoy the distance.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And here's a classic example again of what handicappers have to deal with all the time, all the year over, from country to country. You know, horses are improving faster than we realize they are, and they're very often deteriorating faster than we realize that they are.
Just to make a correction, I said that the great racing won the Grand Criterium. No, Ardiendo won the Grand Criterium,
yes.
on heavy ground or soft ground, and then was beaten by the great racing, the 2,000 Guineas, which made me think that the great racing was the best 3-year-old. And then this horse, Real Rim, beat all of them, Ardiendo and the Great Racing, but not fair and square. I mean, not they never be in the race, Ardiendo and the Great Racing. So it's something weird.
Yeah, they're too bad to be true, aren't they?
Exactly. So that's why
that's not the true level of the Great Racing and Ardiendo. We know they're better than that.
Yeah, probably. As I have the Great Racing and Ardiendo as 112, I put this winner in the same level, waiting for the next one of all of them. Not only Rio Rim, but I want to see Senhor Sandro, I want to see Ardiendo again, and I want to see the Great Racing again. So
yes,
that's
so I think what we're telling everybody who's watching the webinar is that these are our figures at the moment. But we expect some of the horses to go upwards, some of the horses to go backwards over the next 6 months or so, and we'll see where it takes us. So when you're having 3-year-old races at the start of the season, I always call them provisional ratings, because they're what I think at the moment, but who's to say what I'm going to think in 3, 4, 5, 6 months time, whatever the answer to that question is, Real Rim is clearly a pretty good horse, because he's looking at Real Rim, I think he's appreciated the extra distance for sure. He's won it, I think, pretty comfortably as well. So Real Rim has got a lot of things going for him. They know what his best distance is now. They know he's an improver. Onwards and upwards for Real Rim. And I'll be very happy to see him 114, 15, 16, 17 as we go through the season. Okay. So overall, it was interesting. Your figures, Nahuel, you fascinated me. The way you looked at historical averages of the race, and you looked at, well, this is what the average rating would be. So you sort of know over a period of time that the winner is going to be around 114. And again, this is a good technique that handicappers do all over the world. We do it. We do it in Britain. It was interesting with the ARC. I think by and large, we thought that the ARC winner was a little bit above average for the ARC. I've had ARC winners down as 121, 122. I've had ARC winners 135, 136. But I think he was.
Phil, if you assess the Dewhurst Stakes of last Saturday, Gilwan has won, and there's no clue because the horses are doing this, and then probably GP they have 122, but probably it's based on the historical of the race. Probably
no question. And he was an interesting one. Because I think he started something like 20-1 in the race on the betting, so he was very unfancied. But if you'd ignored his previous run where he was disappointing, and you just looked at his form before his last run, he shouldn't have been 20-1. He should have been maybe 8 or 9-1. Yes. So he was not without a chance, but you had to give him, excuse. Whatever way you look at it, his last run was really poor, and you had to give him a big excuse and say, well, we'll forget about that, and then you've got a chance of winning the race. Well, clearly, whatever was wrong with him last time, or whether the race was run incorrectly for him, whatever the reason, he's left that way behind now. And,
okay,
and that's what happens all the time.
Exactly. So let's talk about the other race, which is the Suipacha. This race is a sprinter's race in 1,000 meters. The winner is the famous Labrado, who won this same race back in 2022 and 2023. He ran this race last year, but he was beaten by a female, if I remember. And well, he was approved 15 in 2022 world rankings and 2023 world rankings. Even last year, I think he was approved again, but not winning this Ripacha for other race. And let's see I'm sharing this year's.
You're absolutely right, Ricardo. He's been 115 in 2022, in 2023, and in 2024. You know, you couldn't get a more consistent horse. You know, and he doesn't do it every time, but every year he'll come up with an absolute tip-top performance.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we said, Labrador was agreed in internationally in 115 in 2022, 2023, and 2024. And we consider here that he got over from the little bad season that he was having. He was running under his like top level. That's why he entered in the race with a pre-race of a pre-rating of 1-1-1-1-2. But the way that he won was he won easily the race, and Le Cornet was a horse that was dominating the short distance in Argentina. He won the Estrellas easily, and also the Paraguay, and he was agreed 114 in South America. So what we think is that probably Labrador was again in his top level winning this race. Of course, there were some problems in the race. Land of Promi
Right.
and Opreso, I think that were kind of quizzes here because they didn't have like such good parameters or ratings for the race. But well, Opreso is a 4-year-old that is making progress in the last editions. For example, was a runner-up from Hiran in La Madrid, a listed race that was a handicap. Then he returned to an allowance race and won easily. And then I think that he returned to this race with a little bit more experience, and he managed to be fourth. And the same case is Land of Promise that was third, a little bit far from Bailarín de Venecia and Iran in the Silien, and here he is above them, and also Preso is above them. So I think that despite the fact that Hiran and Bailarín de Venecia was under their level, I think that Land of Promise and Opreso made some kind of progress in the race. So that's why I assigned Labrador 115.
So you built based on top level, like you use Labrado, his peak 15, and then you build the ratings.
Yes, that's correct. And well, the Madrugador is also a 3-year-old, so he has just 4 starts and won two out of the four. And I think that he's also showing what he will be capable of for the next races. And well, I'm really happy with Labrado again with the 115. And Le Cornet is running 111 and he was running 114. So I think that he is underperformed here. But I think that we had like two champions in the race that were Labrado, is an 8 group winner horse, and Le Cornet has also won a Group 1. So the distance between the second and the third one were 2 lengths, and I think that the both the best horses in the race were first and second. So I think that Labrado deserves here the 115.
Phil.
I understand. I totally understand. There's plenty of logic behind your analysis there, Noel. I was a bit lower, and I'll try and tell you why. Okay.
Yes.
I used Labrado's 112 as my guide. He did it 3 or 4 runs ago. He's your that was his current rating in Argentina going into the race. He was
Yes.
112, right? And it's quite a long time since he was up in the 114s and 115s, plus the fact he's a 6-year-old. So I was just a little bit concerned that suddenly he's springing back to the same level that he was maybe a year ago, having through the year been at a lower level for whatever reason. I sort of slightly wondered as the year went on whether he just wasn't as good as he had been in 24, 23, and 22, when obviously he got his 115s. So I was a little bit concerned about him. And then I saw that Le Cornet was second, rated 114. So it would be very easy to say, look, he's beaten a 114 in this race, so why should he not be 115? But I think that Le Cornet, for me, at his best, he's very good, but he's a little bit inconsistent. And last time we had him only, something must have gone wrong with him last time because we only had him performing to 46. So I had a few little doubts at this point, and then my doubts got bigger because the third horse is only rated 94. He's run 3 times in pattern races, and his best was 94. So I was concerned about putting him up a lot from his 94. I was happy to go to 101. I wasn't sure I wanted to go as far as 106 with Land of Promise. Similarly, the fourth horse, he was 98 going in. He's had to improve to justify the level. The fifth horse was 96 going in. He's had to improve to justify the level. So we've got Labrado jumping back to what he was a year ago. We've got the third horse performing to the best he's ever done, the fourth horse performing to the best he's ever done, and the fifth horse performing to the best he's always done. And I suppose there were just too many doubts for me to put him back to that 115. So I thought, you know, I'm going to leave him on his best performance of 2024-5. I'm going to leave him on 112. And a little bit like we said earlier, let's see what happens. So that was my thinking. Little bit concerned that I wasn't sure I believed the fact that he'd suddenly, for whatever reason, sprung back to 115 when he hadn't been anywhere near that level all year, especially because the third, fourth, and fifth were only rated in the 90s. How about you, Ricardo?
Yeah, well, the main concern is that good horses dragging bad horses to be like the case of Land of Promise or Preso being upgrading more than 8 pounds as a 4-year-old in a sprint race. And for me, Le Cornet is 112, and for me, it's clear he's much better on dirt than on turf. Those 2 races that he won easily after 2 years not participating in any kind of black type was exactly on dirt, on Palermo. He won the Esteros Sprint there, and then the Paraguay there. Both of them beating easily Labrado, and that's why the majority of South American handicappers consider him 14. But I wasn't convinced. And then when seems to me that Labrado always runs well on dirt, on turf. He's a champion, but he's been beaten easily by this horse Le Cornet, and then on turf he turned the table, but below there's nothing. Not maybe Bailarín de Venecia, but I don't know. And as I have Le Cornet 112, and considering Labrado, the last pick was exactly 112, I decided to build based on his level, because I think if Labrado was in the same form as in the past, he wouldn't be beaten by Le Cornet in those races on dirt. So I think most probably the race wasn't too strong, and Labrado won it because he is better, but not at that level. But let's see. We have the Felix Alzagonsue in December, and maybe they gonna face some 2-year-old progressing or something like this. I think the quality of the sprinters it's not the same level as last year, so that's why I use the 12 to build.
For you, Ricardo, a little bit like me, there were just too many doubts about the form of the race.
Exactly. So
I had concerns about the third, fourth, fifth, and I had concerns about Labrado being as good as he has been for 3 consecutive years. When this year his best performance in this year has been 112.
Exactly.
So there wasn't enough in the race to make me say I want to go higher than 112. More than happy to have him on 112, which is what he's already done this year. But there wasn't enough convincing form in the race for make me want to go higher. I suppose that's my thinking.
And one thing which is important, I'm not trying to have the winner as higher as possible. So it's not my role to trying to, I always say this: rating is not a prize, and you need to give to a horse. I try to be honest with the race, realistic, not to try to find the highest possible to a race. And I think what Miguel and Nahuel they thought about it's to make the race as higher as possible, which is exactly 15, and there is a logic behind, as Phil told. But being more conservative or realistic, I think 112 at this time would be better.
Well, I totally understand Noel's logic. There's a lot of logic behind it. I think there's a lot of logic behind a lower figure as well. But again, we're in a great position. These horses are all going to come out and they're going to run again. So a little bit like we've said for all of them, and that's the essence of handicapping. You've always got to be looking back at races. Did it work out? Didn't it work out? What happens when the first 3 or 4 of these run next time? The 3 most interesting horses to me are Land of Promise, Oprezo, and El Madrugador. Now, can they repeat what appears to have been their best ever performance? So these 3 horses, even for me and for Ricardo, who are lower, and for all 3 of us, we believe that the 3rd, 4th, and 5th have performed to the best figure that they've ever done in their careers. Can they repeat it? Can they repeat it? That's the question.
Yes. Well, we also saw that there were 17 runners in the race,
Absolutely.
So they deserve some credit, some piece of
They
credit.
do, and I mean, clearly the fact that you've got 17 runners in this race, this is a top race in Argentina. We have a big race coming up on Saturday in England, the Champion Stakes, right? And we think it's the best field that we've ever had for the Champion Stakes. It's a big prize, but why do we think that we've got a fantastic field for the Champion Stakes on Saturday? Is because we've had a real dry spell in England, right? So the ground is going to be perfect at Ascot on Saturday. And very often the Champion Stakes, because it's run at the end of our season, it's run on very, very heavy ground, and lots of the horses can't perform. So we'll find out on Saturday, who are the best of the mile and a quarter horses in Europe. There's no excuses on Saturday.
Ombudsman, Delacroix, Galandagan.
You've got them. Okay. there's a very, very interesting horse in the race called Economics,
Economics, yes.
and he was a really, really top quality horse last year, but he's been off all season. He hasn't run all year, so this is his first run of the season, and he's the most fascinating horse. You know, has he got over whatever's been wrong with him? Is he fit to run for his life in a top quality race? If it wasn't such a really, really good quality race, I'd think he could win. But I'm not so sure he can after a year off and being a
It's a
top
lot.
quality race.
Yes.
So I'm not so sure he can. But what's interesting is he adds to the interest in the race. You know, British racing at the moment, everyone is talking about the Champion Stakes as being our best race of the season for sure, and it will be. I know, you know.
Yeah, and probably Ombudsman will have another pace setter.
Oh,
And
there's pacemakers. There's pacemakers all over the race, right? I think somebody paid an amount of money to supplement a pacemaker into the race.
Exactly.
So it doesn't come cheap. You know, I think it's around 75, £1,000 to supplement a horse. And what's he there for? He's there to be a pacemaker. You know, but it costs the connections significant amount of money. So yeah, do watch out for this race in England on Saturday at Ascot. Fantastic track. It's probably got 4 of the top 10 horses in the world so far this season running in the race. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
Is Field of Gold returning to the mile there in Ascot? No.
Sorry, say that?
Field of Gold is returning to the mile.
It's what we call our Champions Day. So we've got the Champion Stakes, which is what we've just been talking about, but we've also got the Queen Elizabeth II Stakes as well, which is our Champion Mile race. So yeah, you're right. You know, all our really good milers are coming. And the other thing that happens at this time of year, which is great, and it happened in the Arc as we were talking about earlier, the 3-year-olds are running against the older horses, and you find out which is the better generation. You know, have we got a really good lot of 3-year-olds this year? Also, the other fact is that now that we're into October, the weight for age allowance has got lower and lower and lower as the season has gone on. So the weight for age allowance on Saturday is very small amount, which is great, because we expect our 3-year-olds by October, they should have matured enough to be able to take on these older horses. And it's really interesting if you look at the Champion Stakes, right, over its results over the last 15-20 years. There's a horse that won it as a 3-year-old who was receiving weight for age, and the same horse won it as a 4-year-old when he was giving weight for age. Now, for me, that's a champion, and that horse was Frankel.
Yeah.
Okay, so it takes an absolute superstar to be able to, in the same race in consecutive years, to get the weight for age when it's a baby and can still win, but to give the weight for age the following year and still win. So for us, this is why it's a very, very important race in England.
Yeah, like Trev and Enable both won the Arc as a 3-year-old. Fillies allowance is big for a 3-year-old like Mini Hawk, and then they repeat next year. So
absolutely. So as assessors and handicappers, what does that tell us? We know that makes them a good horse. We know that.
Exactly.
And what was interesting about our conversation today, guys, I thought, was the number of times he said, "Well, let's wait and see."
Yes.
We can. At the moment, we have this amount of data, right? In 3 or 4 months' time, we've got this amount of data, and the more data you have, the more accurate your decision is going to be made. So I always call at this time of the year, with your young 3-year-olds, I really call them provisional ratings, because we're going to see them all run again. Some of them will be improving quickly. quickly. Some of them will just be staying at the same level, you know. So we'll just have to wait and see. But fascinating discussion. Nahuel, congratulations on your first webinar with the two old guys. It's
I would like to thank
brilliant.
everyone to give me the
Brilliant.
opportunity to be part of this.
Well, it's
And
great to see you.
I'm really happy to see you again, Phil and Ricardo here.
Well, absolutely. Well, it's good to see you. Good that you're now sort of coming onto these webinars and giving your views, and they're very, very interesting views.